Greetings everyone. Today we're going to solve systems and we're going to use matrix inverses to solve them. Now we currently have solved systems by hand using Gaussian elimination. We have also done Cramer's rule. And so we're going to take one more approach on how to solve a system. First, let's talk about a matrix equation. When given a system such as this, let's just start with a 2x2 system. We can fill in the coefficients, we can fill in the variables, and we have a constant matrix. So if I was to multiply these two matrices, look at what I would get. I would get my expressions. And then if I set them equal to, I would get the constant. So first we just want to note how we would write these as matrices. So let's practice. If I'm going to write this as a matrix equation, I have my coefficients. I need to identify my variables and set it equal to my constants. Now let's get into the meat of it. Let's talk about how do I solve that? Suppose I gave you this very simple equation and I asked you how to solve for x. You would say, okay, I'm just going to divide both sides by a. X is b over a. Great. But have we ever divided by matrices in our class? We haven't. And so we need another way to solve. So to solve for x, instead of dividing, we're going to multiply by the inverse. Multiply by the inverse. Let's take a closer look at how that would look. Given matrix A times x equals matrix B, we're going to multiply both sides by the inverse of A. Make note of the order. The order in which you multiply matters, so the inverse needs to be in the front. When you multiply anything by its inverse, we've undone the operation. That's how we canceled. That's how we isolated the x. And we've created a multiplication problem that will get us our solution. Alrighty, this first example, I'm going to show you how to find the solution using inverses by hand. And so we will also talk about it using a calculator, but by hand with 2x2s isn't too crazy. Now, the way I'm going to set this up, I'm going to prep my work, meaning I'm going to have my inverse spot ready, and I'm going to have my coefficient matrix and my constant matrix ready. So let's see what that looks like. Let's fill in our coefficients. We have -3, 4, we have 2, -1, and we have 5 and -10 for my constants. All right? Now I need to find the inverse to be able to fill in. See my previous video if you need help with this, because I'm going to go a little bit quicker, okay? So the first thing I like to do when finding the inverse is find that determinant quick. So we've got a 3, an 8. 3 minus 8 is -5, okay? Then to find the inverse, we swap A and D. We change the signs of B and C, and we multiply by 1 over the determinant. That's how I get my inverse, okay? So I'm going to distribute, but I'm going to fill it right into my work here, okay? So if I distribute -1 times -1/5 is 1/5. Negative times negative, positive 4/5. Negative times negative, positive 2/5. Negative times negative, positive 3/5. Seems kind of silly, right? But multiplying those fractions should be that easy. And I'm going to repeat this over here for my work. So what this means is if I multiply a coefficient matrix by its inverse, I'll get the identity. So I don't need to show that, right? It better work. I guess I could check my work, but I better get the identity matrix. And so we're going to concentrate on the right side. We're going to multiply those two matrices. If I have a 2 by 2 times a 2 by 1, check, we can multiply them, and my resulting matrix will be a 2 by 2. Okay? All right, let's try that. I'm going to show a little bit of work and then my solutions. So if I multiply top left, 5 times 1/5, you guys, that's 1, plus negative 10 times 4/5 would be negative 40/5, or negative 8, which gets me negative 7. Okay, let's try this again. Bottom left. 2/5 times 5 is 2, convenient, right? And 3/5 times negative 10 would be negative 6, which gets me negative 4. Negative 4. And so that means my answer to my system is negative 7, negative 4. And some of you might be questioning, why would you do that work, right? We know how to solve a 2 by 2 system easy with elimination or substitution. True, we're starting with a smaller one to show you the how, okay? And so that makes sense, right? We're able to check it by solving it by hand. Next, if you would make sure to have your calculator ready for practicing this with a calculator. Alrighty, let's practice solving with inverses using our calculator. If you need more clear and slower instructions for entering matrices, please see my previous video. All right, let's go second matrix. I'm going to go over and press edit, and I'm going to edit A. Now I previously entered this. So our coefficient matrix is a 2 by 2 of negative 3, 4, 2, and negative 1. I'm going to quit out of there. I'm going to press second matrix, and I'm going to go edit, and I'm going to edit B. B is a 2 by 1 because I'm going to use my constant matrix, which has a 5 and a negative 10. Let's quit out of there. Now, in order to be successful of solving with inverses, we have to multiply the inverse of the coefficient matrix times the constant matrix. Now, there's multiple ways to do this. I like to store things, so I also want to show you the store feature. So I'm going to go find second matrix, and I want A. A is my coefficients, right? And I want to find the inverse. So I'm going to press the inverse key. If I press enter, here's my inverse. Now it's in decimal form. I would like fractions, so I'm going to go math, fractions, yes, enter. To store this, if you press the store key in the bottom left, you can store it as any name. And so I'm going to go second matrix, and I'm going to choose the name C. I want to store it as C. Enter. Enter again. I now have the inverse stored as C. The inverse times the constant gets my answer. Let's go into matrix. The inverse is C. We're going to times it by matrix B, which is my constant, and I get my answer. Now, when you write your answer, because this is the solution to a system, please make sure to write it as a coordinate value. All right, let's take a look at this example, and I'm going to strictly use a calculator this time, okay? So in my calculator, I need to first enter my coefficient matrix. Second matrix, I'm going to go over to edit, and I'm going to edit A. We're going to have a 2 by 2 matrix. And my coefficients are 7, 3, 14, and -4. Double check, looks good. Let's quit out of there. Let's repeat the process for the constant matrix. Second matrix, go over to Edit, go down to pick a new one. We're going to pick B, and I'm going to have a 2 by 1. My constants are 11 and 2. Looks good. Second quit. I'm going to show you a shorter way with not storing, okay? We're not going to store this one right away. So I'm going to go and I need the inverse of my coefficient matrix. So second matrix, I want that 2 by 2. I want the inverse of the 2 by 2. But I'm not going to press enter this time, right? Because all I need to do is take the inverse times the constant. Second matrix, I care about matrix B. See what I did there? The inverse of A times B. If I press enter, there we go. That looks kind of messy though, right? So let's go math, fractions, enter. Are you sure? Yep. 5/7 and 2 is my solution. Make sure to write that as parentheses. Parentheses 5/7, comma 2. Okay? So it's really not too bad if you become fluent with your calculator on typing it in. On assessments, I would write down a little bit more information because I don't want you to accidentally miss a negative and get the whole thing wrong. Alrighty, let's take a look at 3x3s. Here's where it is more efficient to use a calculator than solving with Gaussian elimination. Now, something to consider, I'm going to practice storing on this example, but not on the next, just to see if you find it helpful. And so I'm going to go through all the steps, and I might go a little quicker, so pause if you need to. We're going to go to second matrix. We're going to go over and edit, and I'm going to edit at 3 by 3. My coefficients are 2, 3, 1, 3, 3. Oops, see, I made a mistake there. Clear that. 3, there we go. 3, 1, 2, 4, 1. Double check before you close out of here. That looks good. I'm going to go second matrix again, and this time I want to edit B, and I need a 3 by 1 for my constant matrix, which is -1, 1, and -2. Take a moment to double check. It looks good. Second quit. I need to find the inverse of A. Second matrix, recall the name of A, and find the inverse. Look at that, the inverse doesn't have fractions for once. Okay, let's practice storing on this example. Go bottom left, store. I'm going to store this as second matrix, and I'm going to use the name C. There we go, pressed enter, and it's stored. That means the inverse is C, second matrix, and I'm going to go to C, and I want to times the inverse by the constant. Let's go back into matrix. My constant was B. When I multiply those, I have my solution. Make sure when you write it down, you write 2, -1, 2 in parentheses like a set. Alrighty, let's take a look at this last example. This time I'm not going to use the store feature. I'm going to just straight take the inverse times the constant. Let's see how efficient we can be. Remember, if you ever need to clear your matrices, there's multiple ways to do it. I typically go second memory management, or delete, because I like to go to the matrix menu. And then you just press this delete key over and over again until they're all gone. I don't have any stored. Get out of that menu. Let's go second matrix. Let's go edit. Matrix A, we're going to do a 3 by 3. We have a -1, a 3, a 5. Oops. Next, we have a 2, a 1, and if you're missing a variable, you do need to enter a 0. -9, -8, -4. Take a moment to make sure everything looks correct. Looks good. Let's go second matrix again. This time we're going to edit B. And we want our constant matrix, which is a 3 by 1. Our solutions are -15, 1, and 12. Double check. Looks good. Let's get out of this menu. We want to take the inverse of A, second matrix, choose the name of A, find its inverse, times the inverse by the constant matrix. Inverse times constant yields solution. My answer is 4, -7, 2. Alrighty, now for all of these, I used the TI calculator. If you have a Casio, you will have to Google or YouTube to find your own steps. If you use Desmos, Desmos is actually easier. It's much easier to type in. Desmos.com/matrix. Don't forget to look for the matrix one. The downside, you can't use that on assessments, I'm sorry. But for homework, it's worth a try to check out. As always, make sure to check out Google Classroom, see what our task is, practice that calculator entering. I'm sure you have a task that will allow for that practice. Let me know if you have any questions, and until next time, have a good one.